It's all going down. Howdy, 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 howdy. Hey, I'm Woody. Howdy, howdy, howdy. I'm gonna spread the news. If it feels this good getting used, you just keep on using me until you use me up. Oh yeah. This goes to everything. I'm gonna put this to everything. Everything. You know why? Because you can use this as an example of all roads leading to Rome. All roads lead to Rome. All roads. You know the Rhodes Scholarship? I'm gonna do this song really quick to open all this up. It's a really cool song. It's called Astronomy. Listen to these lyrics. They're too good. And this beat gets them spoken very clearly. So it's really cool. Here goes. Clock strikes 12 and moon drops burst out at you from their hiding place, like acid and oil on a madman's face. His reasons tend to fly away like lesser birds on the four winds, yeah, like silver scrapes in May. And now the sands become a crust. Most of you have gone away. So cool. You can imagine Messiah singing this. You can just add to it. Have gone away. Metallica does a pretty good version of this. Oh, wow. That is later. Ruining my jive here. What is this? What is this, man? Semites doing other than just like the Klan. Can't even stand. Side of your building. Chill without yielding. 12-year-old children be killing. Blood be spilling. Necessary slugs be filling the sky. Use a drilling. The one that isn't willing to die. You understand? You can put everything to this beat. So anyway. Let's continue this. Come, Susie dear, let's take a walk just out there upon the beach. I know you'll soon be married, and you want to know where winds come from. Well, it's never said that all is on the map that Carrie reads. Behind the clock back there, you know, at the Four Winds. At the Four Winds Bar. It's a good song. You listen. Behind the clock. Later on, it talks about experiencing the infinite dimensional and becoming a reflection of it. That's what we're supposed to do through Messiah. This is the first one who did it. So listen to this part. This is too good. Four winds at the Four Winds Bar. 2 doors barred and windows barred. 1 door to let to take you in. The other one just mirrors it. Hey. Go listen to the Metallica version. So cool they do that. It's like they do the low like hey. And it's really low. Listen to these lyrics. Go look them up too. Listen to this. Hellish glare and inference. The other one's a duplicate. Doppelganger. He's telling you about doppelgangers. Hellish glare and inference. The other one's a duplicate. You understand? Hellish glare and inference. The other one's a duplicate. Queenly flux eternal light. Or the light that never warms. Yes, the light that never never warms. The queenly flux eternal light, the light that never warms, it's the moon. That's why the bugs come out in swarms. Get out of the way, nigga. Right. Let's go. From the south. Clock strikes 12. The moon drops burst. Out at you from their hiding place. Miss Carrie Nurse and Susie dear. You understand? Miss Carrie Nurse now. Let me remind you about her. On the map that Carrie reads. Talking about the moonlight. Miss Carrie Nurse and Susie dear would find themselves at Four Winds Bar. Now, the Hebrews and the daughter of that covenant through Messiah are finding themselves at the same place. Four Winds Bar, where it's not on the map. Four Winds Bar, it's not on the map. You gotta experience like the clock or something. Is it the clock? It's the nexus of the crisis and the origin of storms. Just a place to hopelessly encounter time, and then came me. This is Messiah. The nexus of the crisis. That's why they think order out of chaos and everything. The origin of storms. Just a place to hopelessly, you're in despair, you encounter the infinite, and then, because what came? The infinite time. And then came who? The word. How do you communicate? Communicate with the word. All roads lead to Rome, but all rivers lead to Jerusalem. Listen to this last line. I'm trying to sing it because it feels silly to me, but it's fun. This last line is just ridiculous. Think of this one. Call me Destinova, eternal light. These gravely digs of mine will surely prove a sight. Gravely digs. And don't forget my dog. It's your spirit, fixed and consequent. You understand? Fixed and consequent. Don't forget my dog. These gravely digs of mine. Oh, look at this. Oh, look at this. My thumb sticks out. That's a gravely dig. Do you understand? I know what that means, to have your thumb stick out. I know what it means when your thumbs don't stick out. It's literally these gravely digs of mine. David had them. A lot of people had them. Will surely prove a sight. Don't forget my dog, fixed and consequent. It's wild. Let's see. Just abruptly stop it there. Got too much in a flow state. I might have actually slipped and let my 1/3 come out a bit too much on YouTube. But I have another video where I just posted it. I was like, you know what? I'm 1/3 of it. Why? They're racist against me. They don't like me because I can love everyone easier. Everybody can love everyone. But there's certain skull shapes that help you love people. That's all. It's just a help. Just like when you have strong bones, that just means there's people who have big, strong upper bodies. There's people who don't. People who don't have big, strong upper bodies can be very swift and send messages and do crazy karate stuff. And then the big dude is like Mr. Incredible. You can just bust through a wall. You need Frozone. I'm big. If you watch the Incredibles movie, You seriously, Frozone is who I resonate with. And he's the black guy. So these people cannot, the white man cannot hold down the black man in me. That's racist. Look up South Africans that are half African, genetically half African. I'm just genetically a third. Genetically half African. I met a guy before. His name was Makanaki. South African, half African. One was like super white, I guess. And they were Hamitic though. And they married another Hamitic that's just dark skinned. And then their kid came out. He looked like like he would be my cousin. So it's like people want to put a yoke on me of slavery. All right, never mind. I gotta get out of that flow state because that's not a YouTube flow state for someone with my skin color because they're racist against me. I'm gonna fight that spirit because I need to grab it because I forgot it. We're going to go over a book or a Bucher. And I'm going to reveal to you something of the benevolent psychopath. I need to try to express this most in these streams because these will be probably my main epitaph because I'm going to go word for word and I'm going to try to move it kind of quickly so the AI doesn't capture it too quickly. But yes, this man in his book, his struggle. Why? Because he's fighting against genetics and spirit. That's why he's confused. So if you cover one side, he's benevolent. If you cover the other side, let's see if I can do it here. If you cover the other side, he is a psychopath. You have to do it yourself. Just go up, look up the picture where he looks like this, especially, and then put your hand over one side of the face. Somebody got kind of nervous when I said that, and they're like, "Oh, I think everybody does that." It's like, no. I'm like covering my eye in the thing, and I'm like, and now YouTube's gonna make this the thumbnail. I know, like when you hover over it and it shows a portion of the video, they're gonna make that the part that it hovers over, so that they're like, oh, Illuminati. But yeah, if you cover your eye, it's like you shouldn't have a psycho eye. My eyes look the same when I cover. I mean, this guy is literally expressing that, and the reason why I noticed it is because the psycho eye. I started noticing Trump has both his eyes look like that. And they describe it perfectly in the Godzilla -1 movie. The way they depict Godzilla in the Godzilla -1 movie, those are the evil eyes. I can't watch that movie. I don't want to have dreams about that. These movies are spells. So you look at a picture, you can just look at a picture, you don't have to watch the movie. Godzilla -1, look at the eyes. That Hitler had one eye. A lot of times I see both eyes in Trump. I mean, he can express both eyes. I'm sure Hitler expressed both eyes in various times, but it's interesting that his picture he chose for his book, I think he actually chose, I'm not sure, but it expresses his struggle. He's got evil eye and a good eye. And what does that make? It makes a benevolent psychopath. And you might be like, oh, for some reason that seems kind of familiar. Like, what would a benevolent psychopath be in my life? It's like, well, a lot of times the president is a benevolent psychopath, whether they're Republican or Democrat. They, a lot of times, if not every time, are a benevolent psychopath. A lot of politicians are, because they come from Cain, who always thought someone was after him because, he was a murderer. So, kept a spear. It means to acquire, and then Tubal Cain means to acquire a spear. And that's on Trump's coat of arms, is a double-headed black eagle, which is the Romanovs, and it has a Templar's knight's helmet and a fist coming out, acquiring a spear, Tubal Cain, but it's going through a window of heaven, and water's coming out, and it's going through the heavens and attacking who? And Trump designed the one that looks like that. It's based off his family crest. He uses both of them. You can look up both of them. Trump family crest and then the one he designed, and he uses it on his pillows and everything at his towers and stuff. So this isn't a conspiracy or some liberal hate or whatever very confused people on the internet would want to label someone saying this as. Um, so I'm gonna have it like this, the book like this, and you can see we're just gonna go through it word for word. I'm gonna tell you exactly how this man fooled people. And if you look, it's funny. They probably designed it this way. If you look, this is an unabridged edition. You can't even find these anymore. It's hard to find them. It has 6. The swastika just means world domination. It's the 4 winds. It's the cycle of the heavens. It's the wheel of life. Wheeler, or like a machine wheel, or a king of wheel. A Malchus, a king of wheel. But so there's 6 on each page. It's like, come on. Sixers. I've already told you about the Sixers, swoosh. So Adolf means noble wolf. So benevolent psychopath. The noble wolf. He's a Siberian husky. Look at him. When my flesh is fatter, I usually look a lot like him because I'm Germanic, and it's a certain bloodline. That's why when the Americans came to throw their agent under the bus, he was literally reported as having like a like the shakes, like Parkinson's. When he learned the Americans were coming, it's like, wait a minute, I mean, Ford is making my tanks. What's going on here? And he starts shaking. Why are you shaking, bro? Is the Pharaoh feeling fear? Is Fiarun feeling fear? Why are the Americans coming? It's like he's Akhenaten, basically. And he's like, wait, why is the priesthood coming over here and they look angry and they have like swords and stuff? And Tutankhamun, what's you doing, buddy? Like, what's going on? Et tu? Et tu, Tut? Do you understand? This happens. I bet you Akhenaten even said that in Egyptian was probably sounded a lot the same. But when they murdered Akhenaten, I bet you he said that like et tu, Tut. Come on, we talked about philosophy and everything. That's the same with Emotep. Emotep, uh, I think is what the Egyptians worship as Osiris. The first mystery was Messiah, though, and so Osiris is actually Abel and all the prophets that were murdered, and they make monuments to these people because they actually would have done the same thing. The ones you can tell are the ones who claim they wouldn't all the time. It's like, yeah, if you wouldn't, you wouldn't. Like, you don't have to, say it all the time. So that's why this man, Hitler, said a lot of things that would make sense, because if you watch certain movies, it's like Thanos. So this is Hitler's Thanos, Trump is Thanos. They have the power to absorb. Napoleon did that. Napoleon had so much information being reported to him all the time, and he was reading so many things. He felt like he was a god or something, and he's like, I know all this information. But you see how he tried to conquer the world, and then like he might have even been self-delusioned through a plan or by everything's ultimately the Most High, but I'm saying who was inspired or had it in their heart to do it is left a choice, but the choice is foreknown. That's why the people who are the most evil usually are high in power or they're very rich. So it's like when people complain about like how they're not rich, it's like you don't really want to be rich. You want to if you are rich, you have to give away everything in order that you have to figure out the rules of engagement yourself. And so hopefully reading through this shows you that this man, I don't know if he's telling the truth or not about his history, because everything in his history, I'm talking about Adolf Hitler, everything in his history, um, it sounds like he was abused because he says he forgets a lot of his childhood. But he seems to be so well educated if you hear how he speaks, because this is how he speaks. If you translated his German into English, it was translated by their party and everything. It's not translated by, it's an unabridged edition. This is the best edition you can get of this. Um, he's a master psychologist. He's probably lying about his past and everything. He's trying to fish for certain people to join his party. So let's say Trump writing Art of the Deal, I might go read that because it would be like this. It would be the same thing. He's lying about certain situations to gather certain people. So as I'm reading this, I'm going to relate to other people who did the same thing in history. And we're going to destroy this. And it doesn't go against TOS because I am claiming that Adolf Hitler is a what I call a benevolent psychopath. His name means that. Benevolent wolf appears. It's a wolf in sheep's clothing, basically. And one eye will be psycho and one eye will be benevolent. But there'll be times where both come out. And it depends on what he's talking about, I'm sure, and different things like that. But I'm going to go through this. So this is chapter 1. In the home of my parents. In the home of your parents. If you're listening to this, you're probably somebody that this is meant to reach out to and act like, oh, this is like the Lion King. He's pretending to be, as I go through this, you'll see he's pretending to be like Simba or something, or any of these characters, or he's Uncle Scar and Simba. You understand? But good people will resonate with Simba. See, he pretends to be Simba and writes a book saying that I grew up as Simba when he's actually Uncle Scar. And they show you that in The Lion King. It's pretty genius, actually. So I'm going to read this so it's his words. So you can hear them, and I'm just going to tell you what I think of his words. It has turned out fortunate for me today that destiny appointed Braunau on the inn, to be my birthplace, allegedly. For that little town is situated just on the frontier between those two states, the reunion of which seems, at least to us of the younger generation, oh, there's where he's targeting millennials or whatever they called them at that time. They ended up being Hitler Youth or soldiers. A task to which we should devote our lives and in the pursuit of which every possible means should be employed, says Hitler. German Austria must be restored to the great German motherland, says him, and not indeed on any grounds of economic calculation whatsoever. So he's already starting to state it's religious without actually using the word religious. No, even if the union were a matter of economic indifference, and even if it were to be, okay, I want to warn you and tell you, he's going to tell you, was it revelation of method? He's going to tell you exactly what he's doing. Listen to this very, very closely. Even if the union were a matter of economic indifference, and even if it were to be disadvantageous, quite the grammar Nazi, from the economic standpoint, even if it were to be disadvantageous from the economic standpoint, still it ought to take place. People of the same blood, one nation under God, one ethnos under God. Who's the ethnos? What are all these blood drives actually for? People of the same blood, says him, not me, I'm quoting this book, should be in the same Reich. It's interesting how it happens naturally anyway, through the church. But anyway, the German people will have no right to engage in a colonial policy until they shall have brought all their children together in the one state. See, they always try to gather something into one. Where we go one, we go all with the Q stuff. See what's happening? When the territory of the Reich embraces all the Germans and finds itself unable to assure them a livelihood, only then can the moral right arise. What does he mean? When he says right, he means sadek. That doesn't have to be righteousness. It means it's a system that produces a lot of product in the biblical and Hebrew perception. You understand? He says in the book, when the territory of the Reich embraces all the Germans and finds itself unable to assure them a livelihood, here's the big one. When the territory of the Reich embraces all the Germans and finds itself unable to assure them a livelihood, only then can the moral right arise from the need of the people to acquire foreign territory. So in other words, just like lockdowns and stuff, they can put a stranglehold on people to make them desperate enough to do something that they want them to do. This is the farming of people, which is what Mises means. Ramses means to compartmentalize and pasture like cattle, but they do it to humans. This is in scripture. The plow is then the sword, and the tears of war will produce the daily bread for the generations to come. Chapter 1, even though in many parts of this book I'll tell you what he's trying to say that actually sounds good and how he's manipulating, but listen to that. It always comes out every once in a while. You're like, this guy's trying to gather everybody up and say that we have to actually collapse in order to truly rise, as that's occultic. And then he says the plow is then the sword, and the tears of war will produce the daily bread for the generations to come. There's a certain realization that somebody has to use words like that. He understands what women represent, because the women will be the ones with the tears, and they represent the ground and the soil and daily bread. Like, what is he talking? So let me continue here. It's funny. It's page 17, the 17th installment of Apocalypse Noah. Just Apocalypse Noah. And I wanted to do it at there because they don't actually get to 18. But that's a whole nother thing. Let me continue here with this psychology he does. And so this little frontier town appeared to me as the symbol of a great task. No, it's just a focal point. Because when somebody's hypnotizing you, they need a focal point. And you focus on it. And the more you focus on it, the more you're open to suggestion. So a flag, pledging allegiance to it, or television, watching a campaign, or chanting USA or MAGA or any of this stuff, or any Democrat thing. It doesn't matter what it is. And so, okay. But in another regard, also, it points to a lesson that is applicable to our day. Over 100 years ago, this sequestered spot was the scene of a tragic calamity, which affected the whole German nation and will be remembered forever, at least in the annals of German history. At the time of our fatherland's deepest humiliation, a bookseller, Johannes Palm, that's basically what is like procreation, some languages. You can say a mouth of a scholar. What's like the mouth of a scholar? What procreates? in more than just the mouth. So even in other languages, I can hear that. Uncompromising nationalist and enemy of the French, this bookseller, was put to death here because he had the misfortune to have loved Germany well. And see, they can take anybody. Who knows who this person actually was? If he was real or not doesn't matter. He's using him as a focal point right now to draw a certain audience so that he can destroy them. That's why he's the noble wolf. The wolf still has to eat. No matter how noble he acts. He obstinately refused to disclose the names of his associates, or rather the principals, who were chiefly responsible for the affair, just as it happened with Leo Schlageter. The former, like the latter, was denounced to the French by a government agent. It was a director of police from Augsburg who won an ignoble renown on an occasion and set the example, which was to be copied at a later time by the Neo-German officials of the Reich under Herr Severing's regime. Bet you Herr Severing's regime is similar to Reagan. Neo-German, neoliberal. Like that song, Hallelujah, I'm a boomer, neoliberal scum. What was it? My mortgage is paid with a Mexican maid, I still call my kids bums. It's hilarious. That song is hilarious. I'm surprised it's on YouTube. I could say a lot of things if that song's still on YouTube and it's been on there for like 15 to 18 years. It's called Hallelujah, I'm a Boomer or something. I don't know. It's hilarious. So I'm going to read this. There's a history part. It wants to reflect on the history. The author puts it in there. So in order to understand the reference here about the Frenchman and all that, and similar references, because remember, Franks and Saxons mixed. You have Germanic people, the Alemanni. These labels are just very, very rudimentary labels. German basically means the procreating people. The germinators is what it means. So, the sowers. In order to understand the reference here and similar references in later portions of Mein Kampf, the following must be borne in mind. From 1792 to 1814, the French revolutionary armies overran Germany. In 1800, Bavaria shared in the Austrian defeat at Hohenlinden, and the French occupied Munich. In 1805, the Bavarian elector was made king of Bavaria by Napoleon. Remember what comes out of Bavaria is the Bavarian Illuminati, which is what birthed the Republican Party in the U.S. That's why they call themselves the Grand Old Party. It's very old. By Napoleon, and stipulated to back up Napoleon in all his wars with a force of 30,000 men. That's his when he's playing poker. It's like they use men like when they're playing poker chips. Thus, that's what the Lady Gaga song Poker Face is actually about, being able to take life and still trying to look like a human woman. Thus, Bavaria became the absolute vassal of the French. Why they fight over France? Why they fight over certain areas? If you look at the area's history, you'll know why. Why are they always fighting over Poland? Why are they always fighting over Anatolia? They call it Turkey. Why are they always fighting over Jerusalem? Egypt. This was the time of Germany's deepest humiliation, which is referred again and again by Hitler, is, I guess, the Germans losing Bavaria. Very interesting. In 1806, a pamphlet entitled Germany's Deepest Humiliation was published in South Germany. You can liken that to a bunch of things, stuff Obama did, Trump and all these presidents, no matter whether it's red or blue or whatever they say, they do the same things. Woodrow Wilson, when he said, basically sold the country away to a handful of bankers. There's a quote by Woodrow Wilson, the Federal Reserve Act or something like that. Just go look it up. So that's America's deepest humiliation. Many, many, many deepest humiliations happened in America. America, it's the land of the plumed serpent. In 1806, a pamphlet entitled Germany's Deepest Humiliation was published in South Germany. Oh, the South. Among those who helped to circulate the pamphlet was the Nuremberg bookseller Johannes Philipp Palm. He was denounced to the French by a Bavarian police agent, Illuminati. At his trial, he refused to disclose the name of the author. By Napoleon's orders, he was shot at Braunau on the Inn on August 26, 1806. Sixers. They like 2 6s to be in it. They're honoring something. Friday's the 6th day. Friday the 13th. Do you understand? A monument erected to him on the site of the execution was one of the first public objects that made an impression on Hitler as a little boy, allegedly. He's fishing for people who it made an impression on. Leo Schlagetter's case was in many respects parallel to that of Johannes Palm. Schlagetter was a German theological student who volunteered for service in 1914. Who were they looking for? He became an artillery officer and won the Iron Cross of both classes. I know someone similar to that. Just being good naturally at something, because you have literally mechanics and machine in your ancestors' names. It's like, and then good at things with wheels, and you have wheel in your name. It's like, okay. When the French occupied the Ruhr in 1923, Schlagetter helped to organize the passive resistance on the German side. He and his companions blew up a railway bridge for the purpose of making the transport of coal to France more difficult. See, this is how they control things. Pretty interesting, isn't it? Oh, don't read it. It's like, okay, I just read it and I know he's bad. And this, you know what I mean? Anyway, those who took part in the affair were denounced to the French by a German informer. Schlagetter took the whole responsibility on his own shoulders and was condemned to death, his companions being sentenced to various terms of imprisonment and penal servitude by the French court. Schlagetter refused to disclose the identity of those who used the order to blow up the railway bridge, and he would not plead for mercy before a French court. He was shot by a French firing squad on May 26th, 1923. Severing was at the time German Minister of the Interior. It is said that representations were made to him on Schlagetter's behalf and that he refused to interfere. Schlagetter has become the chief martyr of the German resistance to the French occupation of the Ruhr and also one of the greatest heroes of the National Socialist movement. He had joined the movement at a very early stage, his card of membership bearing the number 61. Isn't that something? Very interesting, isn't it? So this is, again, Hitler's words. I'm reading from Mein Kampf. In this little town on the Inn, hallowed by the memory of a German martyr, a town that was Bavarian by blood, but under the rule of the Austrian state. Remember? One ethnos under God, one nation under God. What are you pledging allegiance to? Red, white, and blue? That's Pharaoh's colors. Russia's red, white, and blue. France is red, white, and blue. UK is red, white, and blue. Bavarian by blood, but under the rule of the Austrian state. My parents were domiciled towards the end of the last century. Yes, these are exiled bloodlines that they're trying to manifest their false messiah through. You can read this in all their writings and stuff. Alex Jones says you can read stuff in all their writings, but he never talks about this specifically. I know he's read it. Everything he talks about, he has to have read it, but, you know. He doesn't tell you about Romanov. Exactly, like the Romanovs and these leaders. You can look at their faces. I can show you pictures of their faces at various times. You know, I could show you some just to get them in your mind so you can have a picture of them. Do this one. Let me turn this. Well, I could show you because these guys all look like that. So I can let me pull up the pictures. Hmm. Some of them look like people I know too. It's so weird. So I'll show you the Romanovs in a second, but oh, I hope I didn't. I think I just have them on my phone. I might have to show you these guys first. It's not letting me control the screen very well. There we go. Let me pull this up. I apologize for the time. There we go. Oh, let me see if it works. Family pictures. That's what I did, right? Can't see it though. That's weird. Hmm. Why is it blacking it out? That's very, very strange. Okay. That's frustrating. Let me just pull one up then. I don't have to be on the screen actually. That's very frustrating. Give you guys a break. I don't want you don't want to think about this stuff too much at once. So this guy looks familiar for me because I'm from the same blood. Basically, if you look up American history, America is full of royal exiles. There's people who rebelled against the crown, and because they make blood oaths and all this stuff, they can't do anything except exile them and try to breed another batch. Um, because they think they have the right to. Like it's a family thing. They show this in the Amazon show, the Amazon Prime show, The Feed, very, very well. And many things because these people are part of these bloodlines, and so they just make movies and TV shows about it in various ways. And I can show you next, and then part two, I can show you pictures of Romanovs, and you can recognize all kinds of actors and politicians. It's pretty interesting because they're Soviets. They're like symbiotes. Soviet and symbiote are probably very similar because B and V are the same. So Soviet symbiote. A playful Hebrew can get something like a Goa'uld in the Stargate show out of the word Soviet if you Hebraize it letter by letter. The Yerks on the series Animorphs. It's all over the spirit of it and what they're trying to depict. So let me show another picture actually, because this one's pretty good. Oh, it's big though. Look at that. The ears, the forehead. He just has a bigger knot in the middle of his nose. If I grew a beard like this, my hair parts the same. When I grow my hair, it parts the same as this guy. This is the Franz Joseph. That's the guy who was alive, Archduke of Austria-Hungary or something like that, Apostolic King of Hungary, had a bunch of King of Bohemia, all kinds of know how to get into Bohemian Grove. So why am I so interested in that? This is my blood, but it's the bad side. And then when he gets old, he looks like Iranian. Look at that. You understand? Like, if I become an alcoholic, my nose will be like that. I'll look like this when I'm old. If I drink like heavy whiskey. But I'm not gonna do that because I don't want to look like this. But he's got the black eyebrows and the white beard. You'll see divisions in beards and eyebrows in beards, and sometimes even hair. You get gray just right here, but black on the top, or white on the top and black on the sides. All that stuff is Japheth dwelling within the tents of Shem, but these are specific bloodlines, and they make oaths so that those who are related to them, they just exile in places so that they breed. They want a different thing to come out, and you can see Romanov's. There's this thing called the Golden Horde. So just look up the Golden Horde, Khazarians, the Khanate. That's where the Asiatic eyes come from with Trump, and Asiatic features with Obama. Comes from the east, comes back. This is literally the east answering, what's his face? Alexander the Great. Because Alexander the Great went this way, east, from west to east, and then so now this is and there's probably different ones in between in small ways, but this is like this Golden Horde thing that they speak of. It's kind of like at the magnitude that Alexander the Great had going west to east, these guys had going east to west. And if you look up the Belt on Road initiative that China is doing, it's the same thing, and people should, in America, especially in Europe, should really be paying attention to that. It's very important. So let's get back here. In this little town on the Inn, hallowed by the memory of a German martyr, a town that was Bavarian by blood, but under the rule of the Austrian state. Keep in mind what I've been saying. My parents were domiciled towards the end of the last century. My father was a civil servant who fulfilled his duties very conscientiously. My mother looked after the household and lovingly devoted herself to the care of her children. From that period, I have not retained very much in my memory. That means he didn't have a good childhood, and he's just lying or trying to forget it. He's trying to draw a certain person with those experiences. This is like Freudian manipulation and all that. Because after a few years, my father had to leave that frontier town, which I had come to love so much, and take up a new post farther down the Inn Valley at Passau. Therefore, actually in Germany itself. Interesting, it's Passau. It sounds like Pasher. Pasher the priest says your name is no longer Pasher, but is Magor Mizabib or Migyabib. That is terror on every side. Magor. Magog. No longer is your name Pasher, but Magor Mizabib. Les Miserables? Okie dokie. At Passau, therefore, actually in Germany itself. Okay. In what he's saying is Germany. You know what I mean? They're like, oh, now I'm going to establish borders. I'm going to establish a tav, tavern, tav. This is a border, a mark. He drinks green stuff, speaks a weird language, and drives a spaceship. If anybody knows the commercial I'm referencing and loathes it as much as me, then contact me. We have a lot of like. In those days, it was the unusual lot of an Austrian civil servant to be transferred periodically from one post to another. Not long after coming to Passau, my father was transferred to Linz. Lindsay is a Scottish tribe. Go to the Telegram. I'm starting to post a lot of interesting things. Scotland, it's their crown. They try to suck out all the talent from the Scots and the Picts, which are the Scots and the Irish. Look up how much modern technology Scottish and Irish people have made, and the English and Germans through them. They do it to the Germans too, but even the Germans are like, hey, what are those Scots doing? The Swiss are like something that probably tried to be bred out of that, just more pharaonic. Like this is what these people need to understand. I know how they're trying to breed people. I can see it. This man did too, but he decided to be a master psychologist and bind people instead of showing people the spell. So like Lindsay Lohan. Oh, they made a joke on Robot Chicken about Lindsay Lohan and the Highlander movie. There can only be one ultimate power. It was hilarious, but it's like, why pick Lindsay Lohan? Because Lindsay is a Scottish clan. And while there, he retired finally, his father, Hitler's father, allegedly, to live on his pension. Oh, so fathers have pensions and then their sons. Who is Hitler trying to draw? Who is Trump trying to draw? But this did not mean that the old gentleman would now rest from his labors. He was the son of a poor cottager. These are the type that they sent to World War II from America to be taken care of, so that they didn't come back and question the politicians. He was the son of a poor cottager, allegedly, and while still a boy, he grew restless and left home. Don't take any of these words like it's happened to him. Just take them as he's using his psychology to draw a certain audience. When he was barely 13 years old, he buckled on his satchel and set forth from his native woodland parish. Despite the dissuasion of villagers who could speak from experience, he went to Vienna. It's literally penna. It's face and penis. It's that of pharaonic Rome. Because remember, pera ankh is literally the Franks. The Franks are pera ankh. It's the ankh of Pharaoh. So Vienna, that's another ankh. That it's procreation. It's probably the V one. There's a P one and a V one. France and Vienna. Yeah, the Franks in Vienna is very interesting. Then come the Normans. Don't call me Norman, call me Chubsy Ubsy. It's like, yeah, you can eat that Limburger cheese, can't you? This was in the 50th year of the last century, so I think he's referring to 1850. It was a sore trial, that of deciding to leave home and face the unknown with 3 gulden in his pocket. It's German money. By when the boy of 13 was a lad of 17, I know exactly who he's. You gotta understand who he's referencing. These are Kabbalistic principles. The ages that you try to get them at. 13, 17, and had passed his apprenticeship examination as a craftsman, he was not content. You just have to look up the guilds and stuff in Germany, you'll understand all that. Quite the contrary, the examination as a craftsman, he was not content. Quite the contrary, the persistent economic depression of that period and the constant want and misery strengthened his resolution to give up working at a trade and strive for something higher. As a boy, it had seemed to him that the position of the parish priest in his native village was the highest in the scale of human attainment. See, they're all looking at this through the lens of human attainment, physical attainment. But now that the big city had enlarged his outlook, the young man looked up to the dignity of a state official as the highest of all. I literally ran into the son of the man who created ISIS. And they were both born in America. They were both started out as Christians and claimed they converted to Islam. And then all of a sudden they formed a group that 90% of who dies from them are Muslim, because it's just they're trying to get rid of Semitic people. That's all they're doing. It's not a religious thing for them. Most of it, but they do have their own religion that's different than all of them. So he did the same thing. He wanted to be the son of this ISIS guy, and he said it on his YouTube videos. He made YouTube videos telling everybody, it's like, oh my god, what is going on here? Some MK Ultra kid. And he wanted to be an imam, but now it's like, oh, once he's traveled around, now he wants to be a state official probably or something like that. It's like, oh, I'll just go hide somewhere. Because his grandpa is some kind of Soviet, and he's an American general. If you look up, he calls himself John Georgios, is the guy who created ISIS. But then just look at how much the internet gives you. I won't say. You can go look up as much as the internet gives you, and that's what you'll get. With the tenacity of one whom misery and trouble had already made old when only halfway through his youth, the young man of 17 obstinately set out on his new project and stuck to it until he won through. He became a civil servant. He was about 33 years old. I'll be 33 in 2026. It's very interesting. He says, I think. It's like, oh, so you're just using 33 then for a reason. When he succeeded in making himself what he had resolved to become. Thus he was able to fulfill the promise he had made as a poor boy not to return to his native village until he was somebody. You see, this is the Babylon spirit. Make a name for ourselves. Trump Tower. They all build towers for themselves. Make a name for themselves. Put their name on everything. Trump water, Trump cigarettes, Trump everything, Trump toilet paper. He had gained his end. But in the village there was nobody who had remembered him as a little boy, and the village itself had become strange to him. Yeah, they changed the trends to so fast through media that you're always in confusion and it's hard to relate. They compartmentalize you with media into generations that keep themselves apart like magnets, opposing magnets. Now at last, when he was 56 years old, 5 and 6 is 11. It's their spell casting number. They claim there's 11 dimensions. I'm like, no, there's not. It's only 5 and then the infinite dimensional. Deal with it. He gave up his active career, but he could not bear to be idle for a single day. On the outskirts of the small market town of Lambach, that's literally the house of lamentation or scholarship, because they're obviously related. Anybody who's truly been scholared. The town of Lambach in Upper Austria, he bought a farm and tilled it himself. Thus, at the end of a long and hard-working career, he came back to the life which his father had led. You see how they compartmentalize people and they make their own ambitions their religion? It was at this period that I first began to have ideas of my own. I spent a good deal of time scampering about in the open, on the long road from school, and mixing up with some of the roughest of the boys, allegedly, which caused my mother many anxious moments. All this tended to make me something quite the reverse of a stay-at-home. He might be telling the truth because his thumb might stick out farther than his hand. I'm just going to take a guess. FDR too. I gave scarcely any serious thought to the question of choosing a vocation in life, but I was certainly quite out of sympathy with the kind of career which my father had followed. Why do you think FDR and Hitler perished, allegedly? It's the pillars of their false temple. Apoplectic stroke? It's like, really? I think that an inborn talent for speaking now began to develop and take shape during the more or less strenuous arguments what I used to have with my comrades. This is who he's fishing for. He's fishing for me and anybody interested in the same things. and he's trying to fish in different generations. He's using many psychologies by telling you his alleged parents and grandparents. He's trying to fish for certain psychologies because they want to get rid of them. Let's see. Speaking, I had become a juvenile ringleader who learned well and easily at school, but was rather difficult to manage. In my free time, I practiced singing in the choir of the monastery church at Lambach, and thus it happened that I was placed in a very favorable position to be emotionally impressed again and again by the magnificent splendor of the ecclesiastical ceremonial. This is his Roman. All roads lead to Rome. His Roman is like Simon Magus. Wow, I want to be baptized. I like the ceremonial. I like everything, but hey, what's this Holy Spirit thing? Here's some money. Do you give it to me so I can make people do that? You see how it ended for him? What could be more natural for me than to look upon the abbot as representing the highest human ideal, listen to his words, worth striving for. Remember, Trump doesn't ask for forgiveness. I've showed that a million times. That clip. Just as the position of the humble village priest had appeared to my father in his own boyhood days, he questions. At least that was my idea for a while, but the juvenile disputes I had with my father did not lead him to appreciate his son's oratorical gifts in such a way as to see in them a favorable promise for such a career. And so he naturally could not understand the boy's ideas I had in my head at the time. This contradiction in my character made him feel somewhat anxious. You need to understand who he's fishing for. If that resonates for you, he's fishing for you. They'll give you a false thing to fight for so that you don't procreate. You actually just you don't live anymore. Terminated and germinated. So that's the hour mark. So I'm going to mark this real quick. Put this in here maybe. And then I'll cool down this room a bit and start the second part. And so some pictures of Romanovs, and if anybody thinks they look familiar, then we should probably talk. So let me start this music here. I like this music. You can do any song to this too. What's that one song? I remember when I lost my mind. There was something so simple about that place. Or pleasant, actually. Even your emotions are an echo, so much space. You can do any song. Just have fun. But anyway, let me play this German song at the end here with this picture. That's the one that accidentally played earlier. Let me look for it here. It's in Deutschland. A, B, C, D. Let's see. Dublineers. Doobie Brothers. Okay. I'll see you in, I don't know, 1:30 or 2. Might eat something, I don't know.
Schwarzer Haufen, Heia, oh, Klosterdach den roten Hahn. Spieß voran, rauf und dran, setzt aufs Klosterdach den roten Hahn. Als Adam grub und Eva schwang, Kyrie eleis, wo war denn da der Edelmann? Kyrie eleis. Spieß voran, drauf und dran, setzt aufs Klosterdach den roten Hahn. Spieß voran, drauf und dran, setzt aufs Klosterdach den roten Hahn. Uns führt der Florian Geier an, trotz Acht und Bann. Den Bundschuh führt er in der Fahn, hat Helm und Harnisch an. Spieß voran, rauf und dran, setzt aufs Klosterdach den roten Hahn. Spieß voran, drauf und dran, setzt aufs Klosterdach den roten Hahn. Bei Weinsberg setzt es Brand und Stank, ei ja, oh, gar mancher über die Klinge sprang, ei ja, oh, Spieß voran, drauf und dran, setzt aufs Klosterdach den roten Hahn. Spieß voran, drauf und dran, setzt aufs Klosterdach den roten Hahn. Geschlagen ziehen wir nach Haus, ei ja, oh, unsere Enkel fechten's besser aus, ei ja, oh, Spieß voran, rauf und dran, setzt aufs Klosterdach den roten Hahn. Spieß voran, rauf und dran, setzt aufs Klosterdach den roten Hahn.